What are the objectives of this presentation? First of all, we want to learn what are the characteristics of thriving medical missionary families. Secondly, what should we be teaching? And thirdly, why is the first law of health fundamental to all others? If your son or daughter had been given the scholarship to study at one of the best Ivy League schools in the nation, would they stand firm for Christ and the truths you hold so dear? Come with me to the cafeteria of an Ivy League school just like Princeton, Yale, Harvard, or Oxford. Come to the University of Babylon. The chancellor, King Nebuchadnezzar himself, had ordered his Michelin star chefs to serve his students the richest meats, desserts, delicacies, and wines from his table. The king believed this was the best diet for peak mental performance and superb physical health. Among the students at the university were Daniel and his 3 friends. These young men of nobility had been brought as captives from the land of Judah. They had never eaten meat nor drunk wine, but now they were required to obey the king. Would they give in under pressure? The Bible says, "But Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with a portion of the meat, nor with the wine which he drank. Therefore, he requested of the prince of eunuchs that he might not defile himself." Daniel 1:8. Second thought, Daniel purposed or firmly resolved in his heart not to defile himself with food that was sacrificed to idols. Then he asked Melzar to give them pulse or vegetables to eat and water to drink for 10 days. Melzar agreed. At the end of the 10 days, their countenances appeared fairer and fatter in flesh than all the children which did eat the portion of the king's meat. After just a 10-day trial, God's dietary program was successful. Why did Daniel and his friends remain true to God in this crisis? They decided that as flesh meat had not composed their diet in the past, it should not come into their diet in the future. And as wine had been prohibited to all who should engage in the service of God, they determined that they would not partake of it. Because Daniel took a stand on diet, God gave him a special gift and a special work. Daniel had understanding in all visions and dreams. Do you understand that? This is not correlation, this is causation. Because Daniel said, "I am not putting meat and wine into my body because this is the temple of God," God chose him to be his end-time prophet to the world. Likewise, we are God's end-time people, and if we want to understand the prophecies of Daniel, we must practice the temperance of Daniel. After 3 years of study, Daniel and his friends took their final exam, and the king communed with them, and among them all was found none like Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Therefore stood they before the king. In all matters of wisdom and understanding that the king inquired of them, he found them 10 times better than all the magicians and astrologers that were in his realm. This was the first clinical trial on diet ever recorded. It showed the health benefits of a plant-based diet, that it was 10 times greater than that of a flesh diet. God's health program made the young men 10 times wiser than their peers, but it also made them look healthier. The Hebrew youth were without a match in physical strength, in beauty, in mental vigor, meaning intelligence and literary attainments. They were without a peer. The erect posture or form, the firm elastic step, the fair countenance, the undimmed senses, the untainted breath, all were so many certificates or credentials of good habits insignia or badges of the nobility with which nature honors those who are obedient to her laws. This is what it means to thrive mentally, physically, and spiritually. It means to be vibrant. It means to be flourishing in our health in every way possible. Dear youth, do you have these credentials of good health? Do you and I look healthy like these young men? Daniel's story is relevant to us today. The history of Daniel and his youthful companions has been recorded on the pages of the inspired word for the benefit of the youth of all succeeding ages. Through the record of their fidelity to the principles of temperance, God is speaking today to young men and young women, bidding them gather up the precious rays of light He has given on the subject of Christian temperance and place themselves in right relation to the laws of health. Let's look at some of these wonderful rays of light on health. Let's gather them up. The pandemic has hit every nation around the world. It has stricken our families with disease, causing increased stress and anxiety among all ages. It has taken the lives of some of our loved ones. Now, more than ever, we need to obey God's principles of health. If you have a pre-existing condition like diabetes, hypertension, obesity, heart disease, or other diseases, today you can firmly resolve to follow God's health program, just like Daniel. God's desire for you is expressed in these words, "Beloved, I pray that you may prosper in all things and be in health, just as your soul prospers." 3 John 2. If you have poor lifestyle habits that have caused disease, now is the time to make a U-turn and learn how to improve your health. More than that, God wants you and your family to thrive, to flourish and experience vibrant mental, physical, and spiritual health. When you buy a brand new car, you get an owner's manual on how to care for it, the best fuel to use, when to change the oil, and when to take it for service. God also gave us an owner's manual for our body. It is found in His Word. It is also in the books of Healthful Living, Counsels on Diets and Foods, and Counsels on Health. Have you read those manuals? God has given us in these books the laws of health, which are validated by science. God's health laws teach us how to take care of our body to achieve optimal health, but also how to prevent disease. Pure air, sunlight, temperance, rest, exercise, proper diet, the use of water, and trust in divine power, these are the true remedies. Every person should know nature's remedial agencies and how to apply them. How do the laws of health compare to the 10 Commandments? The youth should be taught that the laws of nature are as truly divine as the precepts of the Decalogue. The laws that govern our physical organism, God has written upon every nerve, muscle, and fiber of the body. Every careless and willful violation of these laws is a sin against our Creator. Notice that the health laws and the 10 Commandments are both given by God. The laws of health are written on every cell, fiber, and organ of our body. Disobedience to these laws is a sin against our Creator. Where did Daniel and his friends get their training on the health laws which helped them to stand the test? Daniel and his associates had been trained by their parents to habits of strict temperance. They had been taught that God would hold them accountable for their capabilities and that they must never dwarf or enfeeble their powers. This education was to Daniel and his companions the means of their preservation amidst the demoralizing influences in the court of Babylon. No power, no influence could sway them from these principles they had learned in early life by a study of the Word and works of God. Notice, the training on strict temperance given by their parents preserve Daniel and his friends not only from eating meat and drinking wine, but also from the immoral influences of the heathen court and university. This is the type of training we need to give to our children. God wants mothers and fathers to teach His health laws to their children. Children should be early taught in simple, easy lessons the basics of physiology and hygiene. They should understand the importance of guarding against disease by preserving the vigor of every organ, and should also be taught how to deal with common diseases and accidents. Do your children know what to do when they get a cold or flu? Or do you run to the pharmacy? Do you know which hydrotherapy treatments and supplements to take when you get COVID? Do your children know what to do when they have a headache or indigestion? Mothers are accountable in a great degree for the health and lives of their children and should become intelligent about health laws. It's amazing how we like to have our children take music lessons, horseback riding lessons, sports and crafts lessons, and that's good. But what about teaching them how their body works? The simple principles of anatomy and physiology, how to prepare a simple meal, how to do hydrotherapy treatments. When should we begin teaching? Parents should teach their children from the cradle by precept, which is instruction and example, the best means of preserving physical, mental, and moral health for their happiness and usefulness. Notice that we should start when our children are still babies to teach them health laws. The first health law we will teach is the plant-based diet of Genesis 1:29. Did you know that American children often have fatty streaks in their arteries before they finish high school? But children who eat a plant-based diet are protected from heart disease because they don't eat meat that is high in saturated fat and cholesterol. Children raised on healthful plant-based diets also have a reduced risk for cancer, obesity, diabetes, and other conditions. Adolescents eating a plant-based diet easily maintain a healthy weight and have fewer problems with acne and allergies than their peers who eat animal products. God's original diet works. Science gives us conclusive evidence that a plant-based diet helps prevent and even reverse heart disease, diabetes, obesity, and also lowers the risk of other diseases. But can a plant-based diet lower the risk of severe COVID-19? A new study was done on 2,800 frontline doctors and nurses from 6 countries with substantial exposure to COVID patients. The results showed that those who followed a plant-based diet had a 73% lower risk of experiencing moderate to severe COVID-19. Conversely, those who were on a low-carb, high-protein diet, such as a paleo diet, had a 48% greater risk of moderate to severe COVID-19. Compared to those who followed a plant-based diet, low-carb, high-protein eaters had a nearly 4-fold greater risk of COVID. What accounted for these differences? Plant-based diets are rich in nutrients, phytochemicals, minerals, and fiber. These are hypothesized to support the immune system as they play an important role in the production of antibodies, proliferation, or quick reproduction of lymphocytes, which are white blood cells, and a reduction of oxidative stress. The researchers said, our results suggest that a healthy diet rich in nutrient-dense foods may be considered for protection against severe COVID-19. So, a plant-based diet is the booster we need to make COVID-19 less severe. Have you ever looked at your child's plate at a fellowship lunch and they have white pasta, white potatoes, white bread, and a few spoons of salad? Teach your child to make every plate of food colorful like a rainbow. The deeper the color, the more disease-fighting antioxidants and phytochemicals will their plate have. The recommendations for fruits and vegetables are as follows. Children 2 to 3 years of age should be eating 1 to 1.5 cups of fruits and vegetables a day. 4 to 8-year-olds should be having 1.5 to 2.5 cups of fruits and vegetables per day. And 9 to 18-year-olds should be having 2.5 to 4 cups of fruits and vegetables a day. Adults should be having 5 to 9 servings of fruits and vegetables a day. One serving is like 1 fruit or half a cup of cooked vegetables or 1 cup of raw salads. The interesting thing is that a recent study showed that just 1 in 10 adults meets the federal fruit and vegetable recommendations for health. Parents, teach your children to reason from cause to effect. Show them that if they violate the laws of health, they must pay the penalty by suffering. If your child gets a stomachache from eating too much sugar or dessert, explain to them why. Teach your child why they're vegetarian. That's what Daniel's parents did. Let your children be convicted that God's diet must be followed. When our sons were 10 to 12 years of age, they were sometimes carpooling with a neighbor's family to a Christian school. A few times, she took them out to eat. Our sons would always order vegetarian food. She asked me several times, why don't your sons ever eat meat at school or when they go out to eat? But mine do. See, my neighbor here, she was vegetarian and they were eating vegetarian food at home, but her sons would always eat meat when the parents were not around, and that made her upset. I explained to her that we had trained our sons to eat God's original plant-based diet because their body is the temple of the Holy Ghost. This is the best diet for health and disease prevention. Our sons are convicted to obey God's health laws at all times and in all places. Teach your child to eat a variety of food. If your child is a picky eater, their taste buds can be changed. The ideal time to start exposing your child to a variety of foods, such as fruits and vegetables, is as infants and preschoolers. Dr. Lumeng, a pediatrician at the University of Michigan, says toddlers can be made to like a new food by introducing it 5 to 10 times. With 3 to 4-year-olds, you may need to give them a new food 15 times before develop a taste for it. If your child doesn't like a specific food right away, stay positive and keep trying over time. Encourage the child to take just 1 bite of the new food. And don't give up. Take your children food shopping to the grocery store and farmer's market. Tell them, let's try this new fruit or this new vegetable this week. Teach your children to cook. A study was done with 125 10 to 12-year-olds in the Netherlands who watched just a 10-minute children's cooking show on television. Later, the researchers offered them a snack. Those who watched the healthy program were almost 3 times more likely to choose a healthy snack, such as an apple or cucumber slices versus chips. We don't endorse snacks, but these findings indicate we should involve our children early in food shopping and food preparation. Why is teaching cooking so important? The science of cooking should be regarded as the most valuable of all the arts because it is so closely connected with life. The foundation of that which keeps people in health is the medical missionary work of cooking. Did you notice that? The medical missionary work of good cooking. This is something easy that each one of us can do. But what if you don't know how to cook? Or what if you don't like to cook? This is what inspiration tells us. To such, I would say, I would go to the very best cook that could be found in the country and remain there if necessary for weeks until I had become mistress of the art, an intelligent, skillful cook. It is your duty to know how to cook, and it is your duty to teach your daughters to cook. Do you know what are the casualties of poor cooking? The victims of poor cookery are numbered by the thousands and tens of thousands. Over many graves might be written, died because of poor cooking, died of an abused stomach. I would say the numbers are in the millions and billions. The Global Burden of Disease study, which assesses the state of the world's health, showed that 71% of the deaths in 2015 were caused by dietary and lifestyle choices, as compared to only 57% in 1990. The study was conducted over 25 years across 195 countries. Let's talk about temperance or self-control. Overweight and obesity is a worldwide problem. The number of obese children and adolescents ages 5 to 20 has risen tenfold in the past 4 decades, from 1975 to 2016. This study looked at the BMI, which is a measure of body fat based on height and weight of nearly 130 million children and youth. Researchers conclude obesity rates in children and adolescents have soared globally and continue to do so in low and middle-income countries. This trend predicts a generation of children and adolescents growing up obese and a greater risk for diabetes and heart disease. In the United States, 1 in 3 children are overweight or obese. This is why several health reports state that this generation will die earlier than their parents. But you may say, that's not our problem. My family is not overweight. But the Bible says overeating and intemperance is the sin of our age. It's our problem. For as it was in the days before the flood, they were eating and drinking, so also will be the coming of the Son of Man. What is the definition of temperance? True temperance teaches us to dispense with everything hurtful and use judiciously that which is healthful. What happens when we overeat healthy food? There is an evil in overeating even healthful food. The brain power is taxed to take care of the large quantity of food that the system does not demand. The mind is clouded and the perceptions enfeebled. Intemperance in eating, even food of the right quality, will have a prostrating influence upon the system and will blunt the keener and holier emotions. You know the feeling on Sabbath afternoon after fellowship lunch. You've eaten a little too much. You've had seconds and maybe even thirds. How do you feel afterward? Are you thinking, let me have a Bible study now? No, you're comatose. You're thinking, where's the couch? This is why God says, whether therefore ye eat or drink or whatsoever ye do, do all to the glory of God. What does the Bible say about snacks? In Ecclesiastes 10:17 we read, "Blessed art thou, land, when your princes feast at the proper time for strength and not for drunkenness." What does that mean? This means that a country will be blessed when the princes or the young men will be eating for strength, for a strong body and a strong mind, and they will not be overeating. They will not be snacking. They will be eating at regular times. I know some children and adults who are grazing all day long. They have no regular meal times. But with Christ's help, we can overcome. What is the effect of snacking on the mind, the body, and the character? Children are generally untaught, regarding the importance of when, how, and what they should eat. They're permitted to eat at all hours, to help themselves to fruit and pie and cake. They're constantly eating. This makes them gourmands, which is someone who eats and drinks excessively. Dyspeptics, this is someone who has indigestion. Their digestive organs, like a mill which is continually working, becomes feeble. Vital force is called from the brain to aid the stomach in its overwork, and thus mental powers are weakened. The unnatural stimulation makes them nervous, impatient of restraint, self-willed, and irritable. So, do we want calm children, or do we want irritable, nervous, and self-willed children? That is the question. A study was done on 4 nurses. They were each given a breakfast on the first day. As you can see, cereal, cream, bread, butter, cooked fruit, egg, and a glass of berry and buttermilk. All the stomachs were empty in 4 hours after breakfast. The next day, the same nurses had breakfast, but 2 hours later, they were given a snack. The first nurse had an ice cream cone, and 6 hours later, there was still food in her stomach. The second nurse was given a peanut butter sandwich, and 9 hours later, there was still food in her stomach. The third nurse was given a pumpkin pie and 1 cup of milk, and 9 hours later, there was still food in her stomach. The fourth nurse was given 1 banana. You would think a banana is just a fruit, that's something easily digestible, but 9 hours later, there was still food in her stomach. People say, but I eat healthy snacks. After all this evidence from inspiration and from science, we can say that healthy snacks are an oxymoron. Brush your teeth after each meal and don't eat a morsel in between, because your meals take at least 4 hours to digest, and then you need to give your stomach 1 hour of rest. So you need a total of 5 hours between meals. The question is, who is in charge of the food in your home? Teach your children to deny appetite and to be grateful for the plain, simple diet God gives them. It is not for you to allow them to dictate to you what they should eat, but you should dictate what is best for them. Teach your child not to overeat. Give them child-sized portions. When they're done eating, don't offer seconds. Children under the age of 3 tend to stop eating on their own when they're full. But after the age of 3, the more you put on their plate, the more they will eat. When our children were small, we were trying to implement these health principles, especially eating lots of vegetables and fruits and no snacks. And our sons didn't always like it. Sometimes I'd catch them in the pantry snacking. So we kept on teaching, encouraging, and modeling the health message. When they turned around 20 years of age, they said more than once, "Mom, thank you for teaching us to eat and live healthfully. Thank you for teaching us to enjoy a variety of fruits and vegetables and the foods of different cultures. Your teaching will pay off eventually." Are you a healthy role model to your children? Children must see in the lives of their parents that consistency which is in accordance with their faith. By leading a consistent life and exercising self-control, parents may mold the characters of their children. Did you know that health and temperance are an important part of the 3 angels' messages? Fear God and give glory to Him, for the hour of His judgment is come, and worship Him that made heaven and earth. The phrase "give glory" is a reference to 1 Corinthians 10:31. And yet some people say, diet has nothing to do with my salvation. But inspiration says all who would perfect holiness in the fear of God must learn the lessons of temperance and self-control. The appetites and passions must be held in subjection to the higher powers of the mind. This self-discipline is essential to that mental strength and spiritual insight which will enable us to understand and practice the sacred truths of God's Word. For this reason, temperance finds its place in the work of preparation for Christ's second coming. Did you understand that? When we practice temperance and self-control in eating, the higher powers of the mind, the prefrontal cortex, this is where our will and reasoning and spirituality is, will be strong and will make the right decision for truth and righteousness. Visualize the future with me. Daniel and his friends were first tested on diet, and then they were tested on worship. Because they passed the diet and temperance test, they passed the worship test. They were so true to God that they were even willing to die if need be. You and I are being tested on temperance every day. Are we standing firm, or are we giving in here and there, overeating, eating processed foods, eating between meals and snacking when we're stressed? Soon we will be tested whom we will worship, God or man, on which day we will worship, Sabbath or Sunday. How will you stand? It's the daily tests on diet and health and temperance that will prepare us for the big test. Do you want to be ready for the second coming of Jesus? Do you want to pass the big test of allegiance to the only true God? If you do, then fear God and give glory to Him by practicing temperance in all that you do today. What can motivate you each day to exchange your bad health habits for good ones? What can urge us on to surrender our broken promises to God and begin a new chapter in our life? The Apostle Paul pleads, I beseech you therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service. Romans 12:1. In the book of Romans, Paul described the beauty of the grace of God, how we're justified and sanctified by faith. And he concludes by saying, I appeal to you by the mercies of God to present your body a living sacrifice. Has God been merciful to you? Has He been gracious to you? Has He given you chance after chance, opportunity after opportunity, forgiveness after forgiveness? In response to what God has done in your life, do you want to present to Him your body as a living sacrifice, not a dying sacrifice? Not because you must, but because you have been touched by the love and mercies of God who gave His Son to die for you. This is reasonable. God's laws are reasonable. Do you want to wholeheartedly obey the laws of health and to glorify God with whatever you eat, drink, and do? If you do, God will help you, and His Holy Spirit working in you will produce the fruit of temperance. Today, God is looking for Daniel's and DANEL'S who will be thriving medical missionaries, living the health message, teaching the health message, and bringing the three angels' messages to a sin-sick world. Can God count on you? If He can, raise your hand. May God bless you.